Right now, you are breathing in the most dangerous poison on Earth. And even if you wanted to, you couldn't stop. Slice an apple and leave it on your kitchen counter. A few minutes later, that cut surface has turned brown. Leave a steel knife out wet, and by morning, there's a reddish stain of rust along the edge. And the exact same thing, this very second, is happening inside your body. The gas that keeps you alive is the same gas slowly eating you away. How can one thing be life and death at the same time? Now think about this. About 2.4 billion years ago, this same gas wiped out almost every living thing on Earth. What that event was called and whether it could happen again, I'll get to in a minute. And think about the Statue of Liberty in New York. It's made of copper, so why is it green? All three of those questions lead to the same answer. And that answer also cracks open the mystery of why you're getting older. Are you the kind of person who thinks pure oxygen means pure health? Oxygen masks in hospitals, oxygen bars at the gym, bottled oxygen water on the shelf. We all believe that the more oxygen, the better. But that belief is the biggest mistake of all. And a whole wellness industry is emptying your wallet by selling you that mistake. From oxygen bars to pricey antioxidant pills, even though the science says most of it doesn't actually work. And today, we're going to cut into that mistake right down to the bone. I'm not Hank. I'm not a doctor either. I'm just like you. Someone who breathes about 20,000 times a day. And hidden inside every one of those 20,000 breaths is a tiny price. So first, let's understand what oxygen actually is. On the periodic table, its number is 8. Its symbol is O. It's the third most abundant element in the universe, right after hydrogen and helium. By mass, it's the most abundant element on Earth, making up about 46% of the crust. And roughly 65% of your own body mass is this single element too. Plus about 21% of the air you're pulling in right now. Here's the problem. Oxygen is dangerously greedy. Its outer shell is short 2 electrons, and it will rip those 2 electrons away from almost anything, at any cost. Fire burns because oxygen tears electrons away from wood. Iron rusts because oxygen tears electrons away from iron. And your apple turns brown because oxygen tears electrons away from those cut cells. Now let this sink in. Your body is slowly, in a controlled way, burning in that very same fire. And this is where the candle comes in. Back in 1775, the scientist who played a big role in discovering oxygen, Joseph Priestley, said something strange. He said that in pure oxygen, a candle burns out much faster. So maybe in that pure air, we would burn through our own lives far too quickly. The brighter a candle burns, the faster it's gone. Your body is that exact candle. But Priestley couldn't prove it back then. It was only a guess. So did science actually go on to prove that guess true? The answer is yes, and that proof came in the cruelest way possible. In 1878, the French scientist Paul Bert showed that under high pressure, oxygen poisons an animal's brain and the convulsions begin. In 1899, James Loren Smith showed that too much oxygen burns out the lungs. And in the 1950s, we discovered that giving newborns too much oxygen was leaving them permanently blind. The thing that saves your life, in excess, is the very thing that steals your sight. Chemically, it's one of the most reactive elements on the planet, and that's exactly what makes it so dangerous. So is this only a modern hospital problem? Not even close. This poison story began at the very birth of the Earth. Let's go back to that moment 2.4 billion years ago. For the first half of life's history, there was almost no free oxygen in the air. The creatures back then were tiny microbes, and to them, oxygen was poison. Then some blue-green bacteria started eating sunlight and releasing oxygen as waste. At first, the iron in the ocean soaked that oxygen up, and the seas filled with rust. You can still see those red rust stains layered in the rock today. They're called banded iron formations. Then the oceans couldn't take anymore, and the oxygen rose into the sky. And that's when the first mass murder in history happened, an event we call the Great Oxidation Event. Billions of microbes suffocated to death on their own waste poison. Temperatures dropped so far that Earth slid into an ice age lasting about 300 million years. One gas single-handedly froze an entire planet solid. So the story ends here. Oxygen is the villain. Case closed, right? No, the real gut punch is coming now. Because that very same poison is exactly what made complex creatures like us possible. And that same poison is working inside your cells this very moment. Inside every one of your cells, there are tiny power plants called mitochondria. They burn oxygen to turn your food into energy. But that burning is never 100% clean. Every time, about 2 to 4% of the oxygen being processed slips away and forms dangerous molecules called reactive oxygen species. The scariest of these is the free radical. A free radical is short one electron, so it's desperately alone. And to end that loneliness, it snatches an electron from whatever it can reach. That could be the fatty wall of your cells. It could be the protein in your blood cells. It could even be your own DNA. With every theft, that molecule breaks down and gets damaged. The name for this endless wrecking is oxidative stress. And this one process is what scientists have tied to aging, cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, and diabetes. Remember Priestley's candle? The harder you live, the more oxygen you burn, the faster your candle melts down. Just like rust eats iron from the inside, free radicals eat you from the inside. Honestly, scientists still aren't completely sure whether this is the one and only cause behind aging, but they do know it's a big one. So how are we even still alive? Because evolution handed you a shield. Your body builds its own weapons, called antioxidant enzymes. In 1969, two scientists named McCord and Fridovich discovered one such enzyme, superoxide dismutase. These enzymes grab the free radical and shut its mouth. And the vitamin C and vitamin E from fruits and vegetables calm that radical down by handing it one of their own electrons. So the fix is simple. Just gulp down a bunch of antioxidant pills, right? This is exactly where most people go wrong. In your body, antioxidants work as a team, lending each other electrons. But when you swallow just one kind, like vitamin C in a megadose, there aren't enough teammates around to steady it. So it backfires, and even more unstable molecules end up floating around inside you. So oxygen is our enemy? No, calling it an enemy isn't quite right. It's really more of a hard bargain. Now let's come back to that Statue of Liberty. That statue was originally a shiny brown copper. But over 100 years, the oxygen in the air reacted with that copper and formed a green coating. What we love today as a beautiful green symbol is actually slow-motion rust. Just think about how clever oxygen is. It quietly eats away a nation's proudest monument, and we clap for it and call it beauty. The same green stain is spreading inside your body, too. You just can't see it. Maybe right now you're thinking, so should I just stop breathing? Of course not, and this is where the story turns beautiful. Oxygen doesn't only destroy. This same fire gives you the power to think. Your brain alone burns through about 20% of your body's total oxygen. The fact that you can understand these very words right now is also a gift of that dangerous fire. We are the kind of creature that turned its own poison into fuel. The same gas that froze the Earth 2.4 billion years ago is the same gas letting you love, think, and live today. That's the bargain. A bright flame, but a short candle. The price of complex life is burning down slowly. So every breath is really two things at once, a little bit of life and a little bit of death. And that balance is exactly what's keeping you alive this very moment. Now let me ask you a hard question and answer it honestly. Say a pill comes out that stops all the oxidative damage in your body, so you never age again. But there's one condition. That pill also dims your flame. You'll live, sure, but you won't feel things as intensely as before. Would you take that pill, or would you choose to burn bright and be gone faster? Drop your answer in the comments below and tell me why.